Hello friends, welcome back to my new video lecture. In today's lecture, I will talk about Plato's theory of mimesis or imitation. But before I start my video lecture, it is my humble request to you all that if you have time, please watch till the end of this video so that our discussions, what we have, you can understand properly till the end if you watch. And I'm sure you will benefit if you watch till the end. Secondly, if you like my YouTube channel, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. As you can see on the screen, please subscribe and press the bell icon, because by pressing the bell icon, you will definitely get immediately notified as soon as I upload new video lectures. And of course, you can follow it, and definitely that will help your cause if you're a student or learner of English literature. So, my dear students and friends and colleagues, let us start this video lecture on Plato's theory of imitation or mimesis. Plato, in his theory of imitation or mimesis, he states that arts deal with illusions. Arts deal with illusions, and they are imitation, that is copy. And not only imitation, but they are imitation of an imitation. So when imitation of an imitation is taking place, that is, it is twice removed from reality. That is Plato's idea. And Plato was the first who inquired into the nature of imaginative literature. And that is why we read Plato till date. He was the first philosopher who inquired what exactly into the nature of imaginative literature. And as a result of which, he has put forward these theories, which of course throws a lot of light to various aspects, as well as is very provocative. He was a poet which, dialogues full of poetic beauty. Plato basically was a moralist, and as a moralist, he is completely against poetry. He disapproves poetry and considers poetry as immoral. And as a philosopher, he also disapproves of it because he feels that it is far away from truth. It is based on falsehood. And that is why both, because as a moralist he disapproves it, and as a philosopher also he disapproves it. And he tries to establish the fact that philosophy is far better than poetry, because philosopher deals with truth. Truth, that is, what he means by truth here is the original idea. I will explain it in my examples that I will give you. So by truth, according to Plato, he means the originality of the idea, whereas according to Plato, because the poet deals with what appears to him, it's an illusion which is twice removed from reality. It is an imitation. That is why poetry is far inferior than philosophy. He believed that the truth of philosophy was more important than the pleasure of poetry. Plato's chief interest was his philosophical investigations, which basically forms the subject of his great works in the form of dialogues. He was not a very professed critic of literature, and his critical observations are not found in any single book. It's scattered at different places in different works. And now let us talk this important and fascinating idea or concept which Plato gives about imitation, and why, according to Plato, art or poetry is an imitation and is twice removed from reality, and that is why it's an illusion. According to Plato, all arts are imitative in nature or mimetic in nature. And he wrote in Republic, I quote, that ideas are ultimate reality. And these ideas, according to these original ideas, according to Plato, are the original truths. He believes that things are conceived as ideas before they take practical shapes. So, idea is original and the thing is the copy of that idea. And he presents the beautiful example of carpenter's chair. And what does he say in that carpenter chair? He says that the carpenter's chair is the result of the idea which takes place in the mind of the carpenter. So the chair is once removed from reality. For example, when this pen, the idea of this pen came into the inventor of this pen, I mean the designer or the process this pen was invented. That idea which came into the inventor of this pen is the original idea that Plato talks about, and that idea according to Plato is truth. And truth is essential, idea is essential. So when that same person in whose mind this concept of pen came, that idea is original, and that same person, when that same person is making this pen, designing this pen becomes the first copy of the original idea of the inventor of this pen. Now when some other people copy, some other companies or some other people copies this pen, it becomes twice removed from reality, because the original pen which was created was the first one which was removed from reality, the idea, and somebody else copies it, so it becomes the second imitation of the imitation. So it is twice removed from reality. In this same pen, like this same pen, he gives the example of the chair. The concept of chair, the idea of the chair which comes into the mind of the carpenter first, the first idea that came into the mind is design, the way the person will sit on the chair, the space that has to be given, the legs that it should have, the stands, the style, anything which comes into the mind of the carpenter first, that idea is the original idea, and according to Plato, that idea is truth. And when that same carpenter makes that same original idea, he transforms that original idea into the chair, his own idea. It becomes first, once removed from reality. And when some other people watches that chair after that chair is produced by the carpenter and tries to make that chair, it is twice removed from reality. So that's why Plato is of the opinion that any form of art form is twice removed from reality. And he gives the example of this chair. And now let us see how he says, how he compares. I give you the example of the original idea of the chair made by the carpenter and then the other carpenter. He gives one more example. He gives the example of the chair only, but he gives the example of a painter. He says that when the original idea of the carpenter came and he made the chair, it is once removed from reality. Okay. Now when a painter watches this chair, physicality of this chair, and tries to paint that chair, that painting which the painter produces, according to Plato, is twice removed from reality, because the painter is copying an imitation, idea of an imitation which was generated from the originality of an idea. So the originality of the painter is not there at all, because the painter is copying a particular chair. He is copying an imitation of, and the painting what he is making is the second imitation. And that is the reason why he says that it is imitation of an imitation. So it is twice removed from reality. And he also says, thus, because it is twice removed from reality, the artist or the poet takes the man away from reality, then taking him towards reality. Thus, according to him, the artist deals in illusions. which according to him is very fatal. He has three basically main objections to poetry. One is, according to Plato, poetry is not ethical at all, not philosophical at all, and not pragmatic at all. So according to Plato, poetry is not ethical, not philosophical, not pragmatic. And how is it? He objected poetry from the view of education. He objected poetry from the philosopher's view, as you can see on the screen. And he also objected poetry from the moral point of view. And he justifies it. Number one, why is it not ethical? It is not ethical, poetry is not ethical according to Plato because it promotes, it inculcates and promotes undesirable passions. Number second point, according to Plato, poetry is not philosophical. Why? Because it does not provide true knowledge. Of course, according to Plato, it is twice removed from reality. And third, it is not pragmatic at all because it is inferior to the practical arts and therefore has no educational value. It is a copy of the copy, according to Plato. Those were his objections. He further states, the imitator or the maker of the image knows nothing of the true existence. He knows the appearance only. How was that chair created? From where was the wood brought? Who created the chair? What were the circumstances in which the chair was created? That the painter has no idea about. And that is why he is saying here, the imitator or maker of the image knows nothing of the true existence. How? He only knows the appearance. And then he goes on to say that the imitative art is an inferior who marries an inferior and the offspring is inferior. You know, so when the imitative, he has already said why the imitative art is inferior. And he says that when the imitative art is inferior, it marries an inferior art. And of course, the production will be an inferior offspring. Plato also felt that poetry, like all forms of art, it only appears, it appeals, it appeals to the inferior part of the soul which is not very rational, the soul which is very emotional and cowardly. And when a reader reads those kinds of poetry, the reader is seduced into undesirable passions or emotions. According to Plato, appreciation of poetry is incompatible with the appreciation of reason and justice and search for truth. It is unreasonable. If you appreciate poetry with the appreciation of reason, if you compare the appreciation of poetry with the appreciation of reason or truth, because poetry itself, according to Plato, is twice removed from reality. He is of the opinion that poetry causes needless lamentation and ecstasies at the imaginary events of sorrows and happiness, because it's an illusion. The art which is produced, the painter who is creating that painting by looking into that chair and does not know any background. So it's basically when the poet is trying to imitate something and write something, and then when the poet is trying to express it, and somebody who is reading the poetry is definitely reading the imaginary sorrows and happinesses and ecstasies and lamentations. And then all these processes, all these events, what happens when a reader reads, it numbs, it paralyzes. What it paralyzes? It paralyzes the faculty of reason for the time being. It paralyzes the balanced thought, and it encourages the weaker part of the soul. And that is the reason why Plato is of the opinion that poetry has no healthy functions and it cannot be considered to be very good. So he feels, to him, this kind of poetry is not good. It numbs the faculty, it numbs the reason. And that is why, according to him, poetry is not a good art. It is an imitation of imitation. It is twice removed from reality. That is what poetry according to Plato is. To him, it is not a good art. In my next video, I will talk about Aristotle's Aristotle's defense of this theory of mimesis, which is given by Plato. You all know that Aristotle is the student of Plato. So my next video will talk about Aristotle's reply to the theory of imitation which Plato gives. I hope I was able to give you an idea about Plato's concept of poetry or imitation and how he is objecting poetry and why is he objecting poetry. Thank you very much for watching the video, and if possible, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. As you can see here, please press the bell icon so that you receive the notification on time and watch the video. Thank you very much for taking out your valuable time and giving time to my video and watching my video. I hope I came up to a bit to your expectations. Until next time, may God bless you all. This is Dr. Shoikat Banerjee signing off. Thank you very much.